Emir and the Secret Waterfall. Emir was an 8-year-old boy who lived at the edge of a small village surrounded by green hills and tall pine trees, and every morning he helped his grandmother fetch water from the old well, and every evening he sat on the wooden fence beside the road to watch the sunset paint the sky in gold and pink. One day after school, Emir walked home with his friend Derya, who loved puzzles and stories, when they noticed a smooth, shiny stone on the path that glowed faintly, like a tiny lantern, and when Emir picked up the stone they heard a soft voice that said, "Follow the light to find the secret waterfall." So Derya's eyes lit up with excitement and Emir felt a quick flutter of courage in his heart, and they decided to search for the waterfall the next morning, packing a small bag with 2 sandwiches, 2 water bottles, a map of the hills, a compass, a warm scarf for Emir, and a bright red ribbon for Derya to tie to a tree if they needed to mark the way back. At dawn they met under the old oak in the village square and set off along the narrow dirt track that climbed gently into the hills, while Pip, Emir's small puppy, ran ahead and sniffed the dew-soaked grass, and as they walked they saw rabbits peeking from behind bushes, heard birds calling in the trees, and smelled the sweet scent of wildflowers. And when they reached a fork in the path they took the right-hand trail because the stone in Emir's pocket glowed a little stronger that way, guiding their steps. After half an hour they came to a brook that sang as it tumbled over smooth rocks, and Derya used her map to check their direction while Emir dipped his hand in the cool water to feel its freshness. And then Emir held the glowing stone above the brook and the stone's light danced across the water surface, showing small, bright pebbles that formed a line across the stream. So they stepped carefully from pebble to pebble until they reached the other side, and Pip jumped nimbly after them, splashing water with his tiny paws. On the far side they followed a narrow deer trail that led under arching branches where sunlight fell like gold through the leaves, and soon they reached a mossy log where a bright green fern grew in the hollow, and Emir remembered the stone's glow had dimmed at that moment, so he placed the stone on the fern, and it glowed with a fresh green light that shone on a hidden path behind the log, and Derya smiled and said, "This must be the way." So they squeezed through the ferns and found themselves in a silent grove where the air felt cool and calm. And in the center of the grove stood a tall rock face covered in vines, with water dripping from its edge. As they watched, a thin stream of water began to flow, and then a fuller rush fell from a high ledge, and when the sun broke through a gap in the clouds the water sparkled like diamonds, and a perfect rainbow arced across the spray, revealing the secret waterfall in all its beauty. Emir and Derya gasped in wonder and Pip barked softly, his tail wagging, and Derya said softly, "We found it." So Emir took a small sip of his water and used the scarf as a cloth to dry his hands before he slipped the glowing stone into a small hollow in the rock beside the waterfall, where the stone's light turned the water to brilliant green and made tiny lights dance like stars across the wet stones. And Derya tied the red ribbon to a nearby branch so they would find the place again. And then they sat on a flat rock at the foot of the cascade to eat their sandwiches and listen to the waterfall's song, which sounded like music playing just for them. After they ate, Emir noticed a small cave behind the falling water, and Derya held up the compass which pointed straight to the cave entrance, and with the scarf between them to protect their faces they stepped behind the waterfall into the cool mist, and inside they found smooth stones carved with ancient patterns of sun and moon. And in the center of the cave was a shallow pool whose water glowed softly with the green light of the stone. A soft voice spoke again and said, "Thank you for bringing the light. This waterfall gives life to the forest, and now it has its heart again." And Emir and Derya realized they had helped the waterfall return to its secret magic. So Emir reached into his pocket to take the glowing stone back, but the stone slipped from his hand into the pool and disappeared with a single ripple. And the cave's walls began to glow with soft green light as if the stone had returned to its home, and suddenly the water in the pool rose in a small wave that left behind a single silver leaf floating on the surface. So Derya picked up the leaf and the voice said, "Take this leaf to remember your kindness and courage." And Derya smiled and tucked the leaf into her notebook while Emir placed his hand on the cool cave wall, feeling proud. Then they left the cave, passed through the waterfall, and walked back along the ribbon-marked tree, the fern-guarded log, the shining stone path across the brook, And finally the oak tree in the village square, where their families waited with warm hugs and cups of tea, and Emir and Derya told them every detail of the secret waterfall, the hidden cave, and the glowing stone, and each family member listened with shining eyes and praised their bravery and kindness, and Derya showed her notebook with the silver leaf pressed inside, and Emir's grandmother said, "This leaf will always remind you that small hands and kind hearts can do great things." And that night Emir and Derya placed the silver leaf on their bedside tables, closed their eyes, and dreamed of glowing waterfalls and hidden caves, and they knew that whenever the world seemed dull or quiet they could remember the secret waterfall and feel the magic of kindness and courage flowing in their hearts.